Now I'm recording. Hello, everyone. I'm recording. Don't worry about
Good
it.
job.
This video will be seen by maybe 3 people, so nobody worry
And those
about
3
this.
people will be us.
And it will be us. Well, I mean, maybe one person for one of my chats. So 4. There we go. 4 people.
Oh boy.
I know.
Oh boy.
But yeah, so we're talking about today organization.
What are we?
Yep.
And by organizations, like I had a weird, like my brain went into categorical meltdown over when you said organizations because I don't know precisely what you mean by that. Like
Categorical meltdown.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's clever use of words or me just being weird.
It's both.
It's both.
Hey,
So
you're a huge nerd.
so to me, organizations span a lot of different things. Like a kingdom is an organization. A religion is an organization. A cult is an organization. Oh, well, religions and cults are pretty close, anyways. A guild is an organization. Like these are all just ways of grouping people and like sort of like unified and function to do a like towards a particular goal. Is that basically what you meant by organization?
Yeah. And you talked about governments or organizations, and I don't disagree with that.
Okay, cool.
As a reminder, I'm more comfortable often zooming straight to like individual people, though I have made and played with organizations in the past.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured. I always try to include organizations in my games. Especially
There's
things
always
like
at least something because there's a government.
yeah. There's government, so you always kind of gotta have some level of organization. But I also I don't know. I really like. See, this is kind of something I want to do in more recent kind of campaign stuff. Is I really like guilds, and
Guilds are pretty cool.
I'm kind of interested in exploring religious organizations as well, like religious organizations and cults. And like genuine guild structures sound kind of fun, or like guild/union structures sound like an interesting thing to add to a campaign. Um, and things like that. So it just seems like an interesting topic, but it's just one that I don't think I perform all that well. The only time I think I've really performed it was like back in the Pathfinder campaign when I like had to map out all of Drew's fucking city state.
Well, back in the Pathfinder campaign, you also
Oh.
had like a legitimate thieves guild that we popped up and in and out of a lot.
That
You
was
also had like
true.
the Academy, which was an
Oh, right.
organization. You had, a lot of religious structures and stuff like that. So I mean, there was organizations.
Can I tell you something? Like,
Go ahead.
oh, hey, look, I've been idle for too long and my connection was lost. Of course, this is going to be the theme of the evening. So, I would say, like, in the Pathfinder campaign, I think there's a few of the religious organizations that I think I had real structures for, but everything else is just sort of like off the cuff stuff. Like, for a few of them, I knew you'd only meet like 1 or 2 people, so I could imply an organization without like showing you the organization itself. Like, this is true when you guys did that Undercity bit, and there was the
And Drew immediately killed the one person we was supposed to go talk to.
yeah. So what was the name of that god? It was like Zathar. There we go. I found it.
Zathar, yeah.
So Zathar's like extra-hierarchical structure. I don't know anything about it. I just knew that there was a big priest that controlled things. Like, it's such a simple structural system, and that's usually what organizations mean in an RPG. One person controls other people. You only really,
Sometimes.
yeah, that's true, but
Yeah.
like the only times where you care about it beyond that level is when you're engaging with the organization as a whole, or like you're gonna see them more than once. You know what I mean?
I guess because when I started thinking about this topic, my first thing that I kind of thought of was like, I feel like for an organization, the basics of that organization are who are they, what is their goal, and how do they achieve that? And I felt like those were like the 3 basic steps for an organization at the start. Because with that, you can pretty much like, if you wanted to improvise off the cuff, you could do it with
Right.
those 3 things, right?
Oh yeah, no. I tended to use organizations as a means to an end. Like the academy, the more important an organization, the more they need those sorts of factors involved. I think with like It's just like there's a number of like single adventure organizations that have tiny bits of structure that implication of structure that you need in a campaign, but you don't need to actually put anything in. Or you can leave
Absolutely.
lots of it. You can leave like giant holes in their organizational structure, and it's fine. Like your guys' current campaign, there's like, does it feel like the Imperial military has a defined structure? Yeah. Have I actually done that structuring? To a large extent, yes. But
I was gonna say my vote would have been yes.
Well, my vote for have I done that work, Zach, is always yes. So
wow. But like,
yeah, very surprising.
But to be honest, like, there's a lot of the structural elements of that campaign that I'm just not going to show because it's not important. And so I know it's there, so I can structure around it, but it's or sort of like I can describe around it essentially, or describe with it. But it's like it doesn't need to be there. If it wasn't there, I wouldn't have any problems. Like, can only really talk about this with path campaigns, can I? I'm like exclusively using examples from our own.
Depending how much you want to spoil for us, bud. I mean,
yeah, I know. So for instance, yeah, I'll talk about that later in your campaign. There's a couple of things I could talk about right now, but I don't want to yet.
But you won't.
But yeah, so for like previous campaigns, there's one I wanted to reference, but neither of you were in it.
You can still reference it. You'll have to explain.
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
So
I reference stuff that you guys haven't been in.
So for instance, the so in the pirate campaign that I ran senior year of college, I'm just gonna lean on that one for a second. Fun campaign, excellent time. 2 of the characters played barbs, which
did you say barb?
Barb,
Yeah.
yes, barbs.
B-A-R-B.
It's barbarian. Drew made the race.
Oh, right.
So Drew, who will probably be on later, made this race.
Oh, I remember. I played in this world.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah,
Jenna did Jenna ran as the legend campaign.
Yeah,
because my friend Troy ran a barbarian named Mankalele.
Of course he did.
It was great.
So
wait, he was Mankalele?
He was Mankalele. That was Troy. Yeah.
Look at that.
Wow.
I remember Mankalele. He was in the tournament.
Yeah.
Right. But like,
well, he tried out for the tournament. He didn't make it into the tournament.
No, that's right.
So I ran a campaign in that setting. But the Barbs had a very hierarchical, like I kind of knew that they probably had a very hierarchical military system. But
what if they didn't, though?
What if they didn't, though?
No, they had a very structured military, as far as I can tell.
What if they didn't? I'm just kidding.
I don't mean that as a bad thing. I just think that barbarians having a...
Listen, Bazil. I don't know what Drew did with this race. We got to the end of it, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, it's some weird mix of like militarized, like Prussia levels of militarization, or Prussia-style militarization, along with like...
That means nothing to me as someone who's not a history buff.
Oh, okay, right. Highly hierarchical and organized military. That's Prussian levels. So that's kind of what that's about. Oh, am I on the right? Ooh, I need to check my OBS settings. So, but yeah, so time to check out the properties. Oh, it is the Blue Snowball. So my audio is going to be crap until right now.
Hooray!
I'm using the wrong headset. Yep, here we are. So that was dumb. I forgot I was using my Blue Snowball. I thought I was just using my headset.
It happens.
So the Barb military structure, which I assume was hierarchical and organized, I knew nothing of it, and I never knew anything of it the entire campaign. But it was sort of there, and it was implied to be there. And the multiple characters were related to it. But yeah, I don't know. I maybe you guys have better thoughts on this. I guess I talked a lot about it.
Well, I mean, this comes down to most things we've talked about in the sense of you don't have to put work into it, right? doesn't mean. But like, I think the world is richer for it if it matters, right? And so you can definitely have groups that are just a way to hold people, right?
Mm.
And have faceless underlings to act on the will of a single individual, right? Which just sounds like more or less what you're saying for a lot of these groups.
Yep.
And I think that's totally valid. But I do also think that, like, you know, a group can be more. It can be more than that, obviously. I think the easiest way, or like the sorry, I'm doing one in Minecraft. A very clear group for me that like or a group structure that I find myself thinking about fairly often is companies, because I've been thinking a lot about sci-fi these days.
Right.
Sure.
And I love cyberpunk, and the entire structure behind that is companies, which, I mean, technically have a CEO, but more often than not are controlled by shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so having individual shareholder, I mean, obviously, like, there's a very clear motivation, right? There's a very clear goal generally, which is profit. And with that, but like Sam said, right? His thoughts was goals, like the goals and how they're going to get accomplish those goals, right?
I guess
Go ahead.
the way I was thinking about it, because like I fall into, I have in the past fallen in the category like Zach has said, like organizations are mostly there to hold characters, right? They're there to more be like useful when they're relevant to what you've planned for the players. Like I in the thing I ran, like I had the church organization and I had an organization of spies that were like doing stuff, and I had all this stuff, but they were really only for like the characters and the interactions I had planned. But the more I thought about after we did that the city building that you did, Bazil, to get prepped for Blades in the Dark, the more I thought about having like a structure like that, like having organizations with like goals and how they're perceived and all that stuff out, having that provides you a lot of utility and like kind of a really helpful tool in your toolbox, because at any point in reaction to something the players is doing is like, oh, well, how would this group react to that? And you have that kind of outlined out already, and you know it'll help you with planning, especially when it comes to like stuff you weren't necessarily ready for, because your players are, you know, chaotic neutral goblins.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the type of campaign where this sort of like organization and planning is most important is an open world one, right?
Oh yeah.
Because if you have open world,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
because if you have a campaign where it's a bit more linear and there's a story, right? You can kind of just define what you need to get that story where you want it to go.
Yeah. Although I
And then,
I guess
go ahead.
I would make a small distinction, and not necessarily that it's an open world. I think it's more necessarily that if you want a living world, you want
A sandbox.
it's they're both sort of sandboxy things. It's just an open world means you can go to any place and do anything. It's more about what the players are capable of doing, whereas a living world has much more implications that the world will take action.
Right. But if you want a good open world, it should be a living world.
Right. I'm just yeah.
Yeah. I guess we agree.
I would also argue it's really, that kind of thing is also really important for something like what you're planning, Stars Without Numbers. I feel like organizations are pretty important for that.
Well, that's also a living sort of approach.
A what?
A living world approach. It's not. It is much. It is sort of like the goal of that game is. I mean, eventually they're going to have some sort of quest. I'm sure, and there's going to be a storyline, but it's much more open. Same with the D&D Ravnica thing, right? You could have a quest and stuff, but it's a much more place.
Sure.
It is super defined. I will give you.
And it's defined by the guilds, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really where this stuff for me starts to become important. And you're right. I mean, Blades in the Dark has relies on this quite a bit with their factions. So it starts with that number. There's faction turns, right? There are faction actions. I actually have my book open on the page that talks about that stuff because I figured we could go through what they define a faction as. I could probably go pick up my Blades in the Dark book as well for the same
That'd be
reason.
helpful.
But I think even on a even in a, I guess, slightly more open D&D thing, you can kind of have these groups as, I mean, for example, like whatever bad guys, right, make up the group, right?
Like the party group or the organization?
Let me rephrase. Usually there's some big bad kind of pulling the strings in the adventure, right? In D&D.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, this would be like the Cult of Tirath. This would be it.
Dark God.
I mean, Dark God is kind of more abstract because we've barely.
Maeve Bell, maybe Maeve Bell.
Maybe, but like once again, it's not as clearly defined as a group structure for that campaign yet. I'm sure it might get defined to be, right? But I think it could be really interesting to consider, like, I mean, obviously, like.
Well, I mean, wait a second. There is the Fifth Dawn cult.
Yeah, I mean that cult.
Yeah, which is dedicated to Dark God.
Right, but we've met a person, and so there's an organization probably.
We met a person and then we killed them. Oops.
Yeah, but like I don't know if it's hard to say anything is actually there, right? Like we met a person from the church.
That's true. You do make a strong.
Is there a church or is there a person left?
Who knows? Maybe everyone's dead.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I suppose the closest, the only groups that we've really encountered are the Grove Tenders and like the bird people, right? We assume
we've only met one harpy though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she keeps talking about other harpies.
Yeah, like she's part of something more. Even if we've only met them, we know they exist.
Yeah.
But like for example, we don't really concern ourselves with it because Amina doesn't really it, right? It's very different if you were to take the harpies as an example, right? And you were to consider what are the harpies' goals, right? And then Amina, as a member, as an individual, right, within that group, what are her goals? How do they align and how do they differ? You can start to create conflict that leads to something happening to Amina or something Amina does because of that conflict or because of those similarities.
Party people.
Hello, Drew.
Hey.
Here it is.
You are joining us in media res.
Yeah.
That's probably not the right use of that term, but
you're right. He is joining in media res. It just means
that does help you give you a good tool to do some storytelling and some conflict.
Yeah,
it is,
and to help kind of like as you're prepping, figure out how Amina might change. And like I mean, if you guys remember from last time, we talked about the city of Razan and the kind of like that was kind of the deserty place, and I spent a lot of my campaign there. And the entire time on that campaign was like 3 or 4 organizations kind of in conflict together.
Yep.
Because there was revolutionaries, there was the government, there was the party, and then there was an evil cult. Oh
yeah, okay.
And there was a fifth one. There was the big bads that were kind of just around.
That begs a question though. Is the party an organization?
Yes, absolutely.
See,
the
I would
party
agree.
is the organization, and that should be have the most whatever.
That
attention.
is one thing. That is one organization
Sure.
you cannot plan out though.
Yeah,
Right,
as a
but
game
it's still,
master,
but it's still an organization that has as a group
Goals.
some goals
Yeah.
and as individuals goals, and I think that's really how organizations should be thought of at first, right? Like when we're talking about what an organization does, it's not just the group's goals.
That's a good point, because that could also help for planning tension and scenes and stuff. Is you have the parties group, but then you can see how you can manipulate one character's goals to go
Yeah.
against that. Like, not to go against it, turn them evil or anything, but like it can
So-
cause some tension.
so I will
Which I think we mostly
say,
do as
as-
GMs anyway.
as having been
I-
a game master for a long time, you are correct. The party is in fact an organization. It's probably the most important organization, but it is. I can say with definition, you never plan the party. You plan around the party. In terms of preparation work, you want to know what the party and the party's goals are, and you want to plan for that party and that particular in that set of individuals as well as the group as a whole and their cohesion. But like, you don't control the party at all, so you can't
Right.
define any aspect of it. That's like, so there needs to be some level of like hands off
No.
of it.
I
Sure,
don't
but at the same
necessarily
time-
agree with that, but that's
There's
because
one way to look at it.
you control people who control the players, right? If there's a cleric, you control their god. If there's
Yeah.
a warlock, you control their patron.
Right, but like,
And I think to some extent, like any allies that get along the way kind of become part of that group as well,
Oh shit!
right? Like
That was
obviously you
hardcore
can't force the players to do anything,
right. Well, again,
but you
like,
definitely
what I'm-
plan. Like you definitely plan.
Yeah,
So you don't just like plan around them. You plan
right, but like the organization,
directly.
but like the god that the cleric worships isn't part of the party as an organization.
No, but you can use it to force the cleric into some kind of situation where it's like,
No, no,
your
I know
god
it. I
wants
know
to-
again. I know what you're talking about. I know what you mean. Okay, that was all right. So, I know what you're kind of going for, but like,
but you
it's
can't
very
control the players.
yeah.
no,
but
of
it's
course
like,
not.
Like
You don't play
can't
the
exert any
players.
sort of control or influence over the characters. So I guess in terms of like preparation, it's for me at least, it's more about it's more about kind of like being ready for like I don't know, like
'Cause I was gonna say, like,
I am very
you
much
made-
a proponent of letting the players create their conflict rather than being heavily active as a participant in it, and sort of just feeding off of what they already have as conflict to better provide them what they want, and like occasionally throwing screwballs in there based off of their based off of some things. But I think it's primarily designed. Like I primarily try to design around like again just feeding off of the player's own like inter-party conflict. And you bring up their like personal stories as part of the game, but it's like I don't know, it's odd to think of like to plan the party as an organization the same way you would plan other organizations.
Maybe
I mean,
maybe
obviously,
not-
yeah, not the exact same, but I think you can plan around that. I think my Apocalypse World campaign is an example of me planning around the party pretty heavily.
Hmm.
There are very few NPCs that didn't exist because of who you guys were.
True. And I think
Yeah,
even if you're not going to be like planning the party out as an organization, having a note structure as if the party was an organization, like you were talking about, would still be pretty fucking helpful.
yeah, and then it also helps the party too, right? Like having Sam being our note taker in our current game is really nice because it's like, what are we doing again? What are our goals? Like
It's because I'm such a
not-
lore
we're not just murder hobos, you know.
Yeah, and I work on the map that no one ever looks at except for
freak. I look at the
when I
map.
bring it up.
I honestly don't have the. I forgot you were doing
I-
that, and I don't have the thing for it.
It's on the notes, so the link is at the top.
The link is on the notes. Well, I forgot you're doing it. So
So
I'm
hey
gonna play.
Basil, I kind of don't need to look at your
Well, yeah, I know you don't. I'm not saying it for you.
map. It's
I
As
do
much
look
as the
at the map.
GM can plan around the.
No.
She's like,
I kind of
the
take that
GM
back.
is
Like,
not part of the party.
I know the GM is not part of the party, but I will say I could look at your map to get an idea as to what you guys know, so I can get inside your headspace. But like, I don't strictly need to look at you because I have.
Yeah, and if you forget if we've been to a
Yeah, exactly.
though it's not a perfect map. But yeah, I guess when I say you can plan, you can use the group as the party as a group and plan for that and plan around that and all that. I mean it very much in the Apocalypse World sense of like 90% of, or I'm not going to throw a random percentage. A large percent of the conflict that I threw into the game was directly around what I knew would test your characters.
Right. Yeah.
And the group's goal as a whole, right? What the group's goal was, which was more or less just survive, right? As far as I could tell. It kind of became that at the end, at the very least, but also the curiosity of each character and the fear of each character and stuff like that.
Right.
And the morals of each character. And so I think that's a way to that's a way to build the world. I don't think it's very much a microwave versus macro way, right? Because nothing is set in stone until you need it to be, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's very different. Obviously, that was my goal with Apocalypse World, is kind of exploring that exact sort of type way of planning. Which I think I liked it in the end. I think it did a good job.
Oh, it was awesome.
No, yeah. Again, that game made it.
But it very much is not like it's the opposite of like the Pathfinder, which had like you can't have any history.
Oh,
I guess that's true.
But that's
Yeah,
I think that's more of how Apocalypse World is structured, rather than it is partially like a choice, but I think Apocalypse World is definitely like, hey, your characters, or you don't have to like make everything all at once. You can just be like, oh, hey, I have this thing because of this reason.
Yeah, I think that's true, but also like the fact that I still don't know what caused the apocalypse, and I made the game, or like I made the campaign.
We didn't need to know though.
Yeah, we don't need to know.
It wasn't important when it came down to it.
Well, it can be for your planning.
It can be, but for us, it didn't, and that's fine.
I think it depends on. I don't know. Having backstory, I think, always depends on what kind of scope you're going for and how much I don't want to say freedom, but like leeway you want to give yourself and or the players when it comes to the world building. Like, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Zach really likes to have all of his stuff planned out, whereas I think Bazil really likes to kind of just explore the world together, if that makes sense. Like, kind of figure stuff out about it as we figure stuff out about it.
You know, it's funny. I've been starting to do that. I started trying that with them, and I have noticed lots of players. I'll be like, "All right, well, it's like, well, what do they look like?" And some players take that and run with it.
Oh yeah,
they're
it's definitely not all players.
But like other players, you're just like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
I usually run with it, but sometimes I just get like mind blocked. I'm just like,
writer's block is the thing.
It helps to ask. This is a bit of a tangent. The better the leading question, the better the question, the better the answer. Generally, if you can lead the players to right and let them fill in the blanks more Mad Lib style than just like here, write a quick paragraph. You'll get where you're looking for easily.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Is to be like,
and then also finding out which players like enjoy that, right? Because there's a player who's just like who just panics every time you ask them, then I don't think they enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, on the flip side, I have some players I will ask them, and this is like no hate. Like, I will ask them like, oh, well, your characters just arrived on the docks. What do they do? And then they just give me a blank face. So I'll be like,
I never know how to answer that question.
Well,
yeah, it's a hard question.
More specifically, like, the character is like, oh, you've arrived on the docks. You're looking for this particular person, and there's a big crowded dock, and there's this place, this place. What do you do? And then you just get sort of like a dead expression, and I'm like, oh no.
And see, that's different.
There's
That's
much
different for me. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh. No, we started talking at the same time, and I
Yeah, go ahead.
People. It's
Fine.
okay. I was gonna say that's a hard thing to answer immediately because there's so much that you can do. Like there's so many options, especially to new players who are kind of like not sure how much they can push the envelope, if you will,
Right.
on like what's allowed. And it's like having just like, okay, what do you do? It can often be like daunting because it's like I don't know what, like, one, it's hard to just always like fully describe the situation, like, and to have it like mapped out in your head. So if you're like trying to role play, which I think most people are, like if you're trying to imagine the scene that has been created, it can often be kind of hard to like fully have that idea formed in your brain. And then also like there's just so many different options because it's limited by your imagination. The only limit is your imagination, sort of, right? So you're like really trying to think of at least in my case, I feel like when I get stuck with that, it's because I'm really trying to think of like, oh, what are my options, and like what's a really creative, like random thing to do.
Right. Yeah. I feel like our hard detour does.
That's fine.
Sorry.
I am going to add one last thing on this. Sometimes it's just you're not getting. Sometimes the hesitation can be that you're not given enough detail about what's around, what there is to interact with. But I think a lot of it. I mean, let's say you're in the scenario. You fly to Portland. You go to your hotel. You step out of your hotel. What do you do? Right? Even in real life, you don't know what to do. Right? You kind of step out. You're like, okay, what's the plan? Or you go to your hotel and you sit at your hotel in front of your computer, trying to like plan out what you want to do. Right?
Right. Yeah.
I think it's normal to have hesitance. Right?
And maybe like this isn't necessarily always going to work, but like maybe those kind of situations are good time for a break, a little 5-minute break. So it's like, all right, everybody think about what you want to do when you get back, and we take a little break.
That's true. Yeah. All right. That's the space I guess I need to work.
Let's go to the organization. Let's go back to that.
Let's get back to organization.
Well, what is that? What are those?
I don't know.
Who's a what now?
So yeah, I mean, and so I was I had brought up the Razan, which was made of organization, like it was a campaign made of organizations because it's about protecting someone, and therefore threats can't really be. I mean, they can be planned and prepped for, right? But like also, I think it depending on how you try to protect the person, right? People kind of have to react to that.
Absolutely.
And depending on how people are planning stuff, you have to change your planning. So it demands a more fluid approach to begin with. And I remember this specific scene that kind of changed the whole thing, which was I had the resistance trying to bomb the palace, right?
Okay.
What game was this again?
This is 5th edition.
Oh, this was the one you were running. Oh, yeah. No, I remember you telling me about this. Yeah.
Yeah. And they like got caught upon or they got caught while escaping, right? But one of the players, like who was kind of a kind protector cleric, right? Really took, I guess, a liking to this revolution, and they ended up going to the place, like going to the meeting and like trying to work with them somewhat instead of becoming, I guess, villains, right?
Right.
And it ended up being very much a question of what is the motivation of this the revolution, right? Which wasn't just topple the government, right? Which sometimes it is, but for the most part, it was they had certain things they wanted the government to start doing, right? And once a political figure started actually listening, it changed their motivations, and there was also the individual motivation, of someone getting captured, but then like eventually gaining the trust of, and then being able to give an in through learning to trust the party, and then leveraging her position in the organization to get the organization to at least listen to the party, right? And so it's kind of this tug and pull of like the individual wanted something from the organization, which was trust in this party, and the party wanted something as well, and the group wanted something, and then the three of them together kind of like created the thing, right? Like created the actions that they ended up being taken, right? Rather than just having an organization which has a goal, and then every member in that organization kind of just being a kind of faceless hand within that goal. If that makes sense.
That does.
That makes sense.
And so it's a thing I would consider. When making an organization is at least have some people. The other thing is that organizations can be too big. And so you kind of just have to abstract and like get important NPCs. They don't have to be important in the organization.
But they have to be important to the party.
Exactly. And they have to, be fully fleshed out NPCs. But like focusing on those people, what they want, how that, like having it not be exactly what the organization wants, even if it's similar, and finding out what those differences are, so that you can highlight it. Hopefully, the players can kind of exploit that if they think it's interesting, right? Stuff like that. But yeah. So yeah, that's for me. That's what gives organizations life, is
People.
them being conflicted, right? Them being imperfect by nature. Which I guess that makes sense. Like
the sort of inherent conflict.
Because I don't know. I've never thought of organizations in these terms before, and I think this opens up a lot of things I can do.
Yeah. I haven't really run that many games where honestly, the only game that really went really far, I was railroading the players pretty hard.
Are you talking about when Basil played the Summoner?
That died? Yes, I am talking about
that Zach killed, basically.
Yep.
Wait, how did I kill him again?
Because you got the entire party to help you when you would have been okay.
When you would have been okay, and I was literally getting my soul sucked out of me.
Yeah. And Basil's character was killed in such a way that he couldn't
I couldn't be resurrected. I had no chance to roll to. I mean, death saves aren't a thing, but you know what I mean.
Sounds a little like
it's because grapple was more broken than I realized. TBH, I didn't realize how strong that monster was, and that's kind of my fault too. So,
wait, didn't my character die in that same combat?
Only because Jenna killed you.
Oh right.
Also, your character didn't die; they fell unconscious.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he actually died then. But
and then was
he
rest.
might have actually died.
Alright.
Because you didn't switch character.
Yeah, you definitely came back.
Oh no, I know. I know I came back.
But yeah, Jenna killed you.
Jenna did kill me.
Jenna's characters have killed a lot of our characters.
Yeah.
Super fair.
What's up with that?
I hadn't considered it, but yeah, that's a problem.
Granted, when she killed my character,
you asked for it.
My character didn't ask for it. My character was
offered
on
themselves
board.
up as a sacrificial lamb.
Sure.
That's true.
So, what was the game where Jenna was part of it? The Blades game that fell apart.
Yeah. But sorry, what about it?
Wasn't Jonah playing like a dark magician type?
She was
I summoned
playing.
the Dark Magician.
Uh,
Just saying.
was she playing Whisper? She probably was.
She was playing Whisper, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Jenna was probably gonna kill a party member in that campaign.
I mean, I wasn't gonna. Yeah, that campaign is kaput. I'm not restarting it.
Are you? Oh, okay. Can I leave that Discord? Is that Discord still gonna be used for it?
I'm probably going to delete it.
Okay,
Fine.
cool. I'll delete it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you know what? Wait, maybe don't invite me to it. I'm now running through. If you need another person, I will join your campaign.
Oh yeah, I'm doing a Stars Without Number campaign.
Can I be a faction?
Probably. Should we
wait.
talk about factions in
Wait.
the game?
Let's talk about factions and Stars Without Numbers, but I also want to be a faction.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like, I know. Like, I'm gonna offer you guys factions. They're gonna be really weird.
Good.
I want weird ones.
Because the entire premise of the game is that one day the Greek gods showed up. And
Wait, is this sci-fi?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So like, turns out gods were real. Some people started being born as the Greek gods, and the gods haven't really died since, except the conflict is that Zeus died.
Oh shit! So there's like a little bit of like what's it called, Wicked and the Divine in it.
Oh, there very much is a Wicked and the Divine. It's inspired by the fact that I've been reading that with Bogna, as well as Saga. So
Isn't Wicked and the Divine good?
It's very good. So yeah, so like the factions are going to be based off of those gods most likely because they're going to be in charge of them most likely. Not like there's also probably going to be some much less important faction that's like Judeo-Christian who still believes in that god and therefore thinks these gods are not actual gods or whatever. But like, you know.
Sure.
And I'm sure probably atheists as well, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they team up, which would be fun.
But you were going to describe
Yes.
factions as they were described in the Stars Without Number.
Yeah, so I mean, factions are really big in Stars Without Number because you have the GM has its own game called the Faction Turn, where they play as their factions, kind of in between either each session or each arc or however often they really feel like it, right? And it kind of plays into that living world thing that Zach talked about.
It's very much a real thing because if you hand us the factions, then it is kind of a living world.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you know, the most intense version of that I can think of is the current Far Verona game, right?
Which I'd started listening to. I really want to get back into.
The current game?
Far Verona, Adam Koebel is running a Stars Without Number game, and every faction has its own Discord server, and he does not control.
Holy shit! Wait, they all have their own.
You could join a faction right now by going to the Discord.
That's amazing.
If you wanted to.
That is
and each one has kind of like each one got to choose its own political system for how decisions were made and stuff like that. It's pretty wild.
That is pretty wild. I will.
Yeah. I forget. He based them off of something. I can't remember what. If it was the Zodiac or something like that. But,
that is pretty wild.
But yeah, it's cool.
That is admittedly the coolest way of running factions and running organizations. Yeah. It's just basically
crowdsource.
Yeah, like crowdsource.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing only he could do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think anyone with some form of social media clout could pull stuff like that, but like.
Yeah, but like, you know, nonetheless, it is something that is very specific to what they can do. But anyways, so because factions are so important in Stars Without Number, they have stats and all of that. They have moves they can do. They have assets and all, and you kind of each time you make a faction, you kind of have to go through all of this, right?
Right.
So faction is defined to have hit points, which is more about like how hard it is to break up, more so than like what people are in it.
Right. Yeah.
They have a force rating, which is their aptitude at doing physical violence. They have a cunning rating, which is their ability to do espionage and infiltration and stuff like that. They have a wealth rating, which is their commercial, scientific, and industrial resources.
Ooh.
They have something which is like, this is just like a rating of like how able or like how much access they have to that, right? Because then they have something called fact creds, which is the real currency they spend, which is more like, but it's as much wealth and resources, but also like resources can be like a primitive world with no money, but they have a lot of workers, so they have a lot of faction cred. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of workers and a lot of food to keep them alive. They also have experience points, they have a home world, and they have a couple tags that can kind of help them with role. And so at that point, the factions very much are like characters, right?
Definitely. Organizations and characters.
Yeah. Which is kind of a fun idea. It doesn't necessarily prevent you from like having, if you think of the organization as a character, but like having individual conflicts still within it. Though it does for me feel a bit more abstracted than I think is necessary. But that's fine, right? Like you can definitely abstract it to this level, and then you get a character with stats, right? And then they have each faction has assets, which are like facilities, contacts, trained units of specialists, stuff like that, right? Things of value, right? Which have hit points, a purchase cost, an attack, a counterattack. Assets of a type, they have location, they have some amount of tech level, right? And these are kind of what they can use, right? Within their turns. Yeah, and then they have specific moves, right? They have actions like attack, buy asset, change homeworld, expand influence, refit asset, repair asset faction, sell asset, seize planet, and use asset ability, right? And this is how Stars Without Number ends up with an entire game around, completely separate from the main game, these groups and organizations.
Yeah.
And how they interact. And there's a lot of games that do this stuff. I mean, Blades in the Dark has this to some extent. Kingdom is about being in a faction, right? In an organization and being leaders within it. A Quiet Year is about a single city, right? And so therefore a faction, and you kind of you play the macro, right?
I feel like if you do any level of meta abstraction on a role-playing game group war system, it becomes setting building. Setting building is almost entirely, like, at some point will become dominated by faction conflict or faction.
Exactly, yeah. I think giving it mechanisms is both a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's limiting, but it does allow you to have more than one person.
It helps to define the genre as well. Like,
it does, that's true.
Because if you just leave it open, then you could slide to different areas, but when you make a strong definition for what a faction can or cannot do, you are making decisions about how the world works and what
that's a very good point. I don't know if Stars Without Number does it in that sense. I think it's just a way to force the living world more so than anything else.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying that like the rules will indeed enforce a genre.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to at least read that out because as someone who's planning Stars Without Number, like it's a thing. Like these organizations, I'm going to be making these organizations soon. And so it's like I thought it was at least relevant to bring it up.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Small side note before we move on. Sam.
Hi.
My faction, I bet is going to be opposed to your faction.
Are you saying you're just like looking through
you're
looking through the aether and you've signaled in on the future and you've looked down upon this game that Bazill's making, and you're like, oh, look, Zach and Sam are fighting. Or are you picking a fight with me right now? Which one of those two is it? Because if you want to go, we'll PvP.
He said, bitch, fight me.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that I predict
It's that you're gonna lose, Sam.
that
That's
we're
what he's
gonna.
saying.
Listen, man, you can't play Minecraft right now. I can walk up to your base and just cut you down.
I'll protect you. I'm hanging out
Bazil,
with him.
no. He started this war. You gotta be neutral. You're the GM.
No. Because check it, right? I will protect him because I'm not gonna let you guys be mean to each other.
See, that was what I wanted, and then Zach declared war.
No. You guys can have conflict, but friendly conflict, friendly competition.
Okay.
Is fighting to the death friendly competition?
It should be.
Yeah. But not in Minecraft, in real life only.
Oh, okay. Zach, I'm gonna crush you, bud.
Oh no.
I got the height and size on you, bud.
All I'm saying is that our factions may come into conflict, and if they do, one of us is gonna win.
One of us is what?
One of us is gonna
win.
go die, and he's saying it's gonna be you.
Yeah, bud.
That and if I get stuck with Ares, I'm just gonna press the attack button and never stop.
I know Ares. I know what Ares is about. He's the only god I figured out.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that if I control the Ares faction, I just press the attack button. I do not press any other button.
Listen.
Do
First off,
do not collect $200.
oh, never mind. I was thinking of this wrong. Never mind. Yeah, no, Ares faction would just be clicking the attack button.
Yeah, it's Ares.
Yeah, it's not anything personal.
It's literally how Ares goes.
Sounds like it's personal, guys.
Does sound a little personal.
Yeah, well, it may not be. All that means is that it's not personal to you.
Anyways, I think I've distracted us for long enough. Well, let's talk about factions. Oh,
we have been.
Well, let's talk about some Blades in the Dark. To differ from Stars Without Number, I now have the Blades in the Dark book, right? And just to see how they define things.
Yeah,
I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they have a whole bunch of factions already in it, right? And they define them a specific way, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I'm just saying that they have a lot of factional stuff.
Yeah, and it's a very different, and I think I prefer it overall because it feels more flexible, even though it's still mechanized in a lot of ways. Because what they have a tier, right, which determines most of every single stat reduced to one number, right? All those faction stats of like how good are they at fighting versus how good are they at sleuthing and stuff like that. It's literally just goes down to like how much influence do they have, how much what's their tier, right?
Yeah, right. The influence
and the details of if they're good at fighting or espionage or if they have a lot of money really just comes down to fictional positioning, right? And like who the faction is. Right. And a lot of it is because you don't make rolls with these factions in the same way. But yeah, they have description, sure. They have faction clocks, which determine what they're up to.
I was gonna say clocks are rad. As soon as you explain to me clocks in what's it called, Apocalypse World sense or the Power by the Apocalypse, like it's one of those things. I'm like, maybe I should just include those in all the games.
Yeah, I do. So, they have turf, which is like similar to like home planet, right? It's like where do they where are they kind of located? Like, where do they work? Yeah, and NPCs, which is notable, like the ones that matter most. Notable assets, some quirks about them, allies, enemies, and what situation they're in. I think it gives a lot more flavor much more easily than Stars Without Number. Because all Stars Without Number cares about is how they're going to action turn.
Say that again?
Sorry. Oh, jeez. My sound's acting up. I was saying that all, like, Stars Without Number, the way they define factions, is literally just so that you can roll with them, right? They make them like a character sheet and not like a character, right?
Right.
Oh, sure.
Whereas Blades in the Dark makes them like a character backstory and then doesn't have like a straight up sheet for them, right? They don't have stats. They just have details.
Right, and then you have things that affect the party that can be like.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I mean that like Blades in the Dark also has very much the group is or like the party is a group with assets and stuff because they have the whole crew thing, right?
Right, like that is, by the way, the crew sheet in Blades in the Dark is sort of like the perfect example of the difference. Like how Blades in the Dark handles it is really kind of what I was talking about before with like what the players the players as an organization are very different from the non-player organization. Like the party and the player organization is very different from every other organization in the game. They are to be treated very, very differently.
Yeah, to some extent. At the same time, it's just that you don't need the stats for NPCs. The players like leveling up, so you give it to them. That's the main difference between the two. I don't think there's much of a difference. Otherwise, you are literally a faction in the game with a tier and like assets. And stuff like that.
There's some things that are. I mean, there are traits that are carried between the two. It's just that the way the player faction gets handled is very different from the other one. Again, like one you have control over, the other one you do not have control over.
Sure.
In the literal.
I mean, you have control over some of it because any like if in their assets there's a crew or a notable like an artisan of some kind, right? That's still part of the crew. It's just not player.
That's true. I guess you choose what resources they have access to, but it's I guess I'm sorry to mean that in a really crude way. Those are like characters in the campaign, random resources. But I don't know. It seems very different to me. The difference.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't seem different for me. I mean, obviously the main difference is that you can't just control the faction.
Yeah,
but like also if in Stars Without Number I give you guys factions, right?
Okay.
That's not different from the players, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is because you guys are going to be much stronger. But like, if I did that in Blades in the Dark, that wouldn't be different than the players, right?
Right.
The players' party is going to be more fleshed out, I guess, because that you're constantly just focusing on them. But like,
right.
Other than that, they're the same. But like, and I think that's especially true if you're building a living world, but you're not doing the thing I did in Apocalypse World, with player characters shaped the world they ended up creating, right?
Mm.
If you play it in Zach's sense, I mean, the players are literally just a group that's influencing the world like everyone else.
Mm.
And because the world is fleshed out, there's going to be specific reactions to them, just like there'll be specific reactions if some random army storms.
Right. I don't know. It's just, for me, it's like you as the game master, like it just falls back to the sort of like fundamental, fundamentally the difference between who the players are and the game master, like the roles and responsibilities of both. For me, a game master is someone who controls the circumstances in which the players find themselves, and whereas the players control what they do, and so collectively as a group, they control their group. I don't know why you're trying to jump over the fence that you can't jump over. And so to me, it's like the players as an organization are like in control of their destiny, very much so, whereas you as the game master are very much in control of the destiny of every other organization.
Sure, I don't disagree with that, but I would also like the players are also the fate of the players is also by the circumstances they find themselves in, just like the fate of every other group is controlled by that. I think just because the players control a faction doesn't mean that that's not a faction. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's as I guess I see it differently because I'm not so hung up on the like who controls what thing. I'm more like they're a faction because
they exist in the world
because they act like
and
one,
they have their goals.
right?
Yeah.
Not and like yes, I control factions of the GM, and they control the players control this one, but it's still a faction, right? It's still an organization that theoretically acts like everyone else.
Right.
Slightly more murder hobo-y most of the time, but like still
almost always.
Almost always less competent too. That's the thing I want to. That's the thing I want to try doing more. In the factions I create as a GM is they should be fucking up as much as the players. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
That's
like
actually a good point.
Bazil is very right in this regard. That like because like when one person is literally the sole dictator ruler of an entire faction, they're gonna act very efficiently. They might make their own decision, but they're gonna do it together. Because you don't think about it, because you don't think it's like 30 people. You think, what is this faction gonna do? You're thinking on like an abstracted level when a faction makes a decision. Whereas, like, in reality, factions fight with each other all the time. There's all sorts of conflicts happen within a faction, and then just random people in the faction will like misinformation with each other. And so you have to take that into account with heavy regard in terms of like organizations overall. Is that like
and plans go wrong and
yeah, like plans go wrong, like all this crap can happen. And yeah, I am 100% down on this idea that like if I'm gonna do organizations, I need to double down on the fact that they're fucking idiots.
well, at least as much as the players are. And
Yeah.
we know most player groups, it always goes wrong because well, especially when it comes. I don't know if this is as true for fantasy because it seems that you just spent like for some reason when we play D&D, we only ever pay attention to every single day almost, right? And we're just constantly adventuring. But like I know in a lot of sci-fi, it tends to be like, oh, you guys do jobs on the side, and then every once in a while we meet up and we're doing this one. Like we look at this one job because it's especially important, and that's the game. That's when we're playing, and that's the one that it's especially important because you guys keep coming up.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can kind of explain it that way, where it's like, yeah, you guys are usually pretty good at that, but this one's more complicated. There's more variables.
Mm.
But like, I definitely have this habit of like, the only thing way a faction can have something go wrong is if the players get in the way, which is not true. And like, I don't think factions should only act the way where they succeed at what they do unless the players stop it. You know what I mean?
I would agree with that.
Which is why the Starters Outnumber faction adds a lot of interesting stuff. I think a lot of interesting dynamics in the long run because they will try to take over a planet and fail because of some reason, or they will try to do this other thing and fail. And that's where having stats and having things you roll for factions kind of pays off.
That is definitely a place where that sort of thing pays off. I would also say that like factions can be useful for other.
That was very ominous.
Other things.
Things.
I will tentatively agree without knowing which other things you speak of.
Well, they're also just in terms of like trying to display the goddamn. So they're also pretty good at like doing that sort of like that inefficiency mode and having the stats for them. Gives you a really strong indication of particular capabilities of a faction or an organization. Like it gives you a much stronger idea as to what they can or can't do, and you as a game master are like, well, how strong are they? They're not that strong. They can maybe make a threat, but they wouldn't be able to enforce it.
Right.
And do things like that.
I see what you mean. Yeah, you can. Maybe the reason factions always succeed is because you always set their goals realistic to what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and the other thing I would have about factions that are different from the player party is the player party is inherently like disorganized unless you're explicitly mentioned to be already known actors acting together. Like the player party is sort of by design. It's an organization that's not supposed to be very organized. Because a lot of times
I don't
there's a
know if
lot
I
of
agree with that. I agree with that in D&D generally, but I don't know if
agree with
that's
that in
true.
D&D. Well, it depends. It depends on the structure of the player party. You know what I mean? Like, you can have groups that are very, very well organized and well put together, but I also believe that like most factions have some sort of like hierarchical structure, and you had to go through like a training process. Like, there's like in sorry, I'm using a bunch of fantasy examples, but like a gang probably isn't super organized. They're probably barely organized at all. But like a military group, yeah, they're probably very well organized. They're probably going to work well together, like just sort of super synergize with each other and things like that. And same with like a religious organization. There's a lot of like sort of like working together continuously, and so I think there's a lot of factors that make it so that like the players that the organizations that you run as the game master have some room to be a little bit more organized than the player group, which is can just be a hot mess. Again, it's very dependent on exactly what the circumstances are, though. So, like, if the player organization is, is this like elite team of commandos, then they're going to be working together. Like, they should be the bar for, like,
For killing
organization.
dudes.
Well, not the bar for killing dudes, but the bar for being efficient, for working together really well, and things like that. And everything else should probably be less organized. Whereas most your example there is D&D parties is usually it's an eclectic group of randoms, and they're not going to work so well together, and they're going to slowly work together better over the course of the campaign. Whereas the people they go up against are largely, especially towards the beginning of the campaign, going to be more organized because, like, even a gang of bandits is going to have a little bit more organization than the player party. Because
unless you have a crew, right? Like unless you're already in that structure, or if,
right,
for example, there's a captain to a ship, right?
Yeah.
You're going a Firefly-esque sort of situation.
Oh yeah.
You're part of, let's say, a secret organization of thieves called the Spiders, and that there's right, like there. I think there are plenty of situations where that's not necessarily true. I think murder. That's how you get rid of hobos. Actually, if you want to avoid murder, give your party some organization.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you like. I totally get you on that one. It's just, I think there's
Bureau Balance is another example.
Bureau Balance is pretty good. I would say the Spiders is a little bit different because you all were just like immediately contracted. That like basically none of you guys had worked together before, but you were all supposed to be working for this greater organization. So it would make sense that you guys wouldn't work super well together at the very beginning because you were just sort of thrown in the fire. But the people who have already been there, well, actually, listen, the Spiders were weird. The Silk Web was weird.
Yeah, dog, we know.
Because even the people within that organization were all sort of working independently within the same space, and that's kind of how it was organized.
Jinsey!
Oh, fuck that guy.
I love how you guys remember Jinsey. Do you remember the
Man, I love that guy.
who were there?
I remember Shulgi.
You remember who?
I remember Shulgi. I remember Sangrita, who passed away. Because she.
I always just thought of Sangria whenever I heard it.
Wait, that wasn't her name?
That's what everyone said.
It was Sangrita.
Yeah, it was Sangrita.
And there was also what's it called? Durin and Rhea, but they were good. And there was also Hubert's grandfather.
Yeah, I just remember Hubert's grandfather, unfortunately.
You remember his name, Bizdel?
No, I don't.
Wasn't he the one that you guys just talked about?
No.
Oh God, I can't remember his name.
Durin was the
Not Durin. It was good. Not a Gus sound. Like it was just said. Oh well, it's fine.
Rhea,
Whatever.
Sangrita.
Nope.
I can look it up. Hold on. I can search for the word grandfather in the thing I printed out.
You should send that to me.
I will someday.
I mean, is it on a Google Doc?
It's in here somewhere. I have a big RPG. To be honest, So do you guys want to know a secret?
Mhm.
Sure.
Do you
This has
want
gotten-
to know a secret?
This has gotten super held up because obviously I'm not unemployed anymore, and I've been working on other projects. But in my free time, I took that. I basically you output the text from the Roll20 as a text file,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I want to read through this. And I decided when I was unemployed and I had some time because we had ended this campaign and it was really sad. I was just gonna tidy it up a little bit and make it look nice.
Go on.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a very serious endeavor because I'm only about halfway through, and it's been quite a few years. But I was gonna give it to y'all as a gift when I was done, but god damn, it's taking a long time. Just don't tell the others because I want to eventually send it out to everybody.
Are
But
you like rewriting it as a? Are you just like cleaning up the details?
I'm cleaning it up and also making it so it makes sense because sometimes
Ah,
things don't make sense. So I tried to Hillian. It was Hillian.
Hillian, there we go.
Found it.
How do you not remember? You made this character. I say not remembering most of my characters.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like. I don't remember. I don't remember some of the characters in the Pathfinder campaign, especially ones that died in the first like 3 seasons.
Oh,
Whose fault
shots
is that?
fired! Shots
Whose fault is
fired!
that, huh?
Shots fired!
We didn't kill him.
I mean, he died.
But didn't we though?
I don't know why, but I just
No, we didn't.
I'm
Specifically.
not gonna lie. Specifically with Hillian, I don't know why, but I just felt weirdly compelled to like
Kill him? Cool.
just to like give somebody a tragic backstory thing through that, and so that is why he died. It was
You're
one of
welcome,
the worst.
Bazell.
Hubert wasn't even that tragic. Like, you take it too tragically.
He didn't.
Yes.
It's true. He took it really well.
Oh, death happens.
That is true.
Pretty sure didn't he go on like a murderous rampage?
Oh, for a bit, yeah. Who doesn't? But like, it didn't shape his
But
life.
he took it well.
Yeah. Well, it's D&D. I don't know what you want me to say.
And it was also his grandpa.
As a reminder, all your characters go on murderous rampages at some point, Drew.
Oh yeah, that's
And they
right.
don't have dead grandfathers.
That's true. All of his characters go on murderous rampages.
Name one time.
Riptide.
But hey,
all of
yeah, no, Riptide, Drogo most of the time. Drogo. Let's talk about all the coffins that Ognar smashed.
That's not a murderous
That's
rampage.
not the same thing.
That's not.
But also,
Yeah.
all
It's not even
the
close to
important
the same
NPCs you killed before you talked to them.
Yeah, there were many
Oh my
NPCs you killed
God.
before we got a chance to talk to them.
Wait, can we pause on this moment
Never-
when we were all in the fucking when you guys were all in the fucking Undercity and you just insta murdered an NPC?
Yup, that was a fun. We
I
got
kept
mad at
saying
him.
that I was super scared.
or the dungeon
Jumpy.
world.
I was literally role playing about how I was scared and jumpy. And what does Zach do? He throws a guy that just fucking jumps out of the shadows with
He was
and
a
described as super creepy and like ugly.
And
So
then
that's
said
not-
that he
that's-
can't
that's
control
not
the
even-
player effect.
Whoa, wait a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
That's not even
Yeah.
not even the NPC I'm talking about because that guy
No.
came back.
That guy came back. We're talking about the leader of the vampire city who you killed before we can have a conversation with, who is about to talk to us about how the gods
That
are
was
evil,
also
and
role playing because my god Helios told me that they were bad and that I had to
is
kill them.
Zathar, bud.
It was Zathar.
Zathar. You're right. Zathar. Yes.
Helios, I will say right now, would never
Helios
tell you to do
has
that.
never contacted my other player.
That's Magic the Gathering also.
Yep, that's where Drew got it.
Oh, no, it's Heliod. Sorry, Heliod.
Yeah. So
Send me your guys' emails. I'll send you the work in progress I have on the doc right now.
Sure.
Just message it, put it in the message thing.
You already
Yeah,
have my
so,
email.
so many of
I keep
many of
forgetting it.
Drew's-
It's
many
my
of Drew's-
first name dot my last name.
you guys are acting like it was just random bouts of like, I'm just gonna kill this guy because it's
It's
funny.
not
What
random.
about, what about that one time in the dungeon where
The thing
Oh,
is
right,
you
Stan specifically
you
said,
used to just
"Oh, I want to
kill
talk to this
characters
person."
before
That
we could talk
time
to
was
him.
because I didn't hear Sam say that, and then
Nah.
Zach just went with my action.
I said it multiple times because I said,
and
please
wasn't
don't
listening.
attack
I'm
him.
sorry,
No.
and I apologize for it.
But no.
Wait,
I'll let it go.
whoa.
I'll let it go.
also-
Hold on. I'll let it go. But this is what happened. I said, please do not attack him. I need to talk to him. You attacked him. I said, okay, you can attack him. Do not kill him. You then attacked him again and killed him.
Yeah, so I
It was
specifically,
2 steps.
I specifically remember asking
No, I don't
you.
remember that second step.
I specifically
It was
remember
just-
asking you "Are you sure, Drew?" multiple times as you were doing this. I'm like, Drew, are you sure you
Well,
want to do this?
That doesn't.
And the answer is yes, he was.
The
Yeah.
the answer is going to be yes every time you ask me something like that, Zach. Because I don't know, it always feels like it's like, oh, well, I feel metagamey like when you're like, are you sure you want to do
Metagame
that?
is a
'Cause then it's
myth.
like,
Well, in that particular instance, I was trying to get you to metagame. I wanted you to think about what Sam had literally just told you.
Metagame is a myth.
Metagame is
Okay,
We
Zach
always
and
metagame
Drew.
to pretend that we can't is wrong.
Zach and Drew, give me your emails really quick, because I have bazills.
my email is
You don't have to tell me it because it's going to go online. You could just put it in the Discord.
true. I will have to tell you if I type on the
If you
Discord. I
say
pop
your
up.
email, I'm gonna send this video to everyone I know so they can start sending spam.
Bazil,
That's right.
Bazil.
I'm the villain here.
Oh my God. I'll give it to you after we're done recording.
All right, I'll just send this to Bizzle right
Or actually, you know what? I can use my phone.
Yeah, I kind of. I mean, that's most of what I have to say about faction and organizations. Can't quite think of what else there's for me. Like I'm running out of things at the very least.
Can we just
So.
talk about cool organizations from campaigns? I want to talk about my organization. Because I'm so cool.
I guess I'm just rolling
Which one?
around in nothing.
I mean, Drew, do you have anything to say about organizations in campaign? Like,
Honestly, I'm not very good at doing organizations, mainly because I haven't GM'd very much. Every time I try to, we get like one session and then that's it.
I know you were gonna do that one with the Patty and the John.
Yes,
I know. I
and Bazil's a part of
characters
it,
for that.
and oh my god,
I got
when-
killed first
when
combat
Jeff-
of the first combat of the game, first round of that.
You know, I mean, here's the thing, Bazil. I
You
ran a level 1 shot, and then I've done a level 1 then I ran the level 1 ran a campaign and started level 1. Both fucking times, the party sorcerer went down in like 2 hits and barely
How's it
survived. I know.
So it's really
I did
easy
survive
to
though.
die.
I got.
You ran your
insta-killed without
character
death save.
up to a bugbear.
Did I say my character was smart? No, I said they were
I'm just
dumb
saying you
knowledge
don't get to
cleric.
complain for actions you know are
They
dangerous.
were a dumb knowledge cleric. That was a great.
Anyway,
I mean,
that
it's
died
fine.
because 3 of the players would just go and get high, like during session, and they're impossible to coordinate with. And I don't know, like him slitting that sheep's throat to like intimidate the other sheep really kind of like
Took
I don't
you
know,
out of
crossed
it.
the line, but it was definitely like this is a little too. These
I
guys
mean,
are a little too much.
That
for
was
me.
Yikes
It was
City.
just a zany thing.
Huh?
It was very much felt like a zany campaign, which I think
That's still Yikes City.
slitting a
Yeah,
sheep's
it's,
throat. I don't know.
Slitting a sheep's throat, like just
No,
overall,
yeah, because it was
as, like,
like
a random
he was,
act of violence seems
he
weird.
was doing it to intimidate the other barn animals so that they would tell him what happened when they'd already been like, we don't know what happened. It's just I don't know. It was
Sure.
like, okay.
I don't know. I don't mind evil campaigns. Also, I feel bad for the dead sheep. I'm not gonna pretend I don't.
mean, I also,
but also-
especially now that new Pokemon.
I feel like
I
you're
do-
just trying to play devil's advocate. Either way,
Well,
is something
well, no,
I was
like
uncomfortable
I
with.
eat lamb. You know.
Yeah,
we
for
all-
sure.
we all
Killing
eat
the sheep
lamb.
to eat it versus killing it to send a message are 2 very different things, and I don't appreciate you pretending like they're not. I don't like the false equivalency you're doing.
I guess. Like I agree. I don't think it's worse than killing a man just to do it, which we do in that game too.
Well,
When was the time somebody killed a man just to kill a man?
more accurately,
We run into a lot of people that we just kill. Do you want a specific example of when someone?
okay, but like On what occasion during that
Not when
campaign
we killed
did someone?
we've killed a lot of people, but not without like some kind of motivation other than just to kill the person.
I mean,
Especially after it was laid out that like well, I don't know.
I'm sorry that I made you uncomfortable. I don't think it's the most egregious thing that someone's done in that game.
In that
What's the
game,
most egregious thing you think somebody's done in the game?
I mean, you killed a kid. You killed a 10-year-old. Shot him with a shotgun. That was pretty bad.
oh right, yeah.
What's it called?
Yeah.
I played a 10-year-old where my character got shot and killed, so that was fun.
What? How did?
Harvey Honeydew, the kid chef. Harvey Honeydew, he got shot by a gun. He did get brought back to life by death, which was rad. But the bad guys did kill a kid, so that sucked.
That does suck. Holy shit.
It was probably one of the, like, to be fair, in the DM's defense, it was the final showdown, and I did run into the battle saying they won't shoot a kid, right?
What the fuck?
So
Also, like I don't know. It wasn't just that it was like a sheep. It was also that there's like a family of like frightened people in there, and then
I think the
context
uncomfortable part is that they were
like,
not that they rather than you know, like
Wait,
you killing a kid was not a laughing matter. Them killing that sheep was.
Oh, whoa! It was a joke to kill the sheep.
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. It was because it was like, I didn't know. You had to be there. It just
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It wasn't great. I'm not arguing that.
Would you agree that it was Yank City?
No.
Okay.
Well, that's the part in part because there's just so much violence in D&D, and yes, killing an innocent sheep is bad, but I mean this is a personal thing for me where I think we put the life of animals way higher than we put the life of other people, and the amount of humans that die.
or sentient beings.
Or sentient beings, right? But like, for example, I mean, this is a complete aside at this point, but like the fact that the Exploratorium has a kind of exhibit where you can choose to donate into one of 3 charities, and it's kind of to see where people's priorities are. And the one with the most money is always just the Humane Society for Animals, rather than like homeless shelters or like anything else. And it's just so frustrating because.
mm-hmm.
Do you feel like because people have more worth, or not worth, but are like,
because people are able to feel empathy towards a dog or a human, because that human didn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah, I'm with Vizil on this.
So that's where my frustration was. Like, the sheep thing was bad. Worse things have been done, right? Like, or at least on the GM side, like whole villages slaughtered.
yes, but I think we have to take into context of, like you said, about the gravity each situation is given in context. And like you said, that it was done as a joke. Whereas I feel like most of the other deaths, including the one with the 10-year-old, were given the weight that they deserved. And that's why I had a problem with it, and that's why that sticks out in my mind. It's not because he killed the sheep; is because
it sticks out in your mind because they made you very uncomfortable, and that's reasonable and fair, right? That's a good reason to be like for it to stick out in your mind. But torture scenes are bad.
Yeah,
They are.
We've tortured people in our campaigns. Who they were didn't really matter, right? Torture is still bad.
I'm trying to remember who you tortured.
Yeah, actually, I am too.
Hubert tortured someone. I can't remember who. This is not really relevant, though.
Yeah,
it was for information.
It was indeed for information. I do remember. He at some point probably.
It was a cultist, I think, of some kind.
Yeah.
But like, but once again, like it was not considered a good moment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This was when Hubert was at his worst, and like Hubert had always had this dark side from being trained as a spy, and being trained to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
didn't, and I tried not to run it as a light, happy, positive moment. I ran it as a dark.
Yeah. But I've also had the idea of a group of murdering orcs that use the blood of their victims to look like watermelon on their shaved heads. Because it was a goofy food-based campaign, and I had to create some sort of goofy villain, right? It's just like it's awful as well.
Wait a second. Rewind. Get this all. Like, are you talking like Rage 2 Goofy? Because like a goofy food campaign should not include orcs that put blood on them.
I mean, it also included Guy Fieri, the Fire Genasi, who cooked.
Which is cool and funny.
That's cool,
but that doesn't involve.
But that doesn't
lots
involve
of
the
blood
blood
in
of
that.
your enemies that you splattered on your head. Like, there's a way to
Right.
have watermelon head orcs that doesn't involve putting blood on their head.
Sure, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Rage 2 Goofy, Borderlands 2 Goofy. I think it was more Borderlands 2 than Rage 2.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I just feel like,
But Borderlands 2 is that too, right?
and the other thing
Or
is that like
Borderlands 3 is that too.
D&D doesn't require you actually killing everything. You can literally swap kill with KO. You'll be fine.
Oh yeah, but most people don't.
I mean, sure.
Like literally, the trope is murder,
Yeah.
right? Violence is taken extremely cavalierly in D&D. Like
But that's because
half
I
the
also
time
feel
it's
like
a joke.
it's taken very cavalierly in just
Most media.
in American culture. Yeah.
Well, the fact that like on Polygon stream they're like warned, oh, there might be titties on the stream, but like a guy was big, ripped in half on screen as well. That was it. There was no warning for that.
When did they warn about titties on screen? I forget.
During the Cyberpunk
Oh, right.
there
yeah,
were no
they
titties on screen
Yeah, there
because
was.
Microsoft wouldn't show that on screen, but they did show a person getting ripped by swords. So
Right.
like it's just a thing in gamer culture.
It's
The-
true.
All video games are violent and getting increased graphic about it.
Do we want to try to get back on track with factions, or you think we're pretty much done with that?
Zach said he wanted to talk about some weird factions.
I just wanted to talk about factions that we like for all. Just as a as just a fun way to sort of wrap up talking about, to sort of think about
Sorry, what again?
to talk about some of the most interesting factions that you have come across, you have been engaged with in a campaign, and just think about, like, just after our conversation, rethink about the way that faction worked, faction was, or sort of like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to.
Sure.
Can I really quickly say something before that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Drew, I didn't respond properly to your to your discomfort about the sheep thing. I just like you're super right to be made uncomfortable by whatever it is, right? And I should acknowledge that better. So I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. Thank you for apologizing.
I need to be better about that. Because like obviously, if something makes you uncomfortable, there's no argument that one could, like no argument changes that.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, and I love you, and I'll be more careful.
I'm sorry, and I love you too, Basil.
No, you.
We all love each
But I'm glad you love me. I didn't say anything about you, Zach.
other.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, fuck you, Zach.
I
No,
didn't get any love out of this either. Hold on.
I love you both too.
You're just saying that because I pointed it out.
Well, now I am.
So factions I've liked. Thieves Guild. I really liked most of the Thieves Guild from our Pathfinder campaign.
Man, you might be the only one.
I don't know. There was like Bertio, and there was
Well, it's because
You are also
Zach-
maybe the only person who liked Bertio.
yeah, dude. Bertio's great.
I felt like Zach kept using the Thieves Guild to try and like fuck over New Drogos.
To be fair, a little bit of that was me and Yanni. Because Zach did give us some power over New Drogos.
Wait, we did? Oh god, what did I do?
There was that one session where it was just me and Yanni showed up, so you're like, let's just fuck with no New Drogos today.
Oh right.
Drew was there too. Drew was there too, but he was playing while we were doing stuff in the background.
Oh right, I fucking forgot.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you guys controlled the Thieves Guild as Drew was doing New Drogo stuff.
No, Yanni did Thieves Guild. I was
right.
Torgos. I was Torgan Nobility.
Right, yeah. So you guys were just like dicking over Drew's fucking lovely city.
It was great.
True.
That was a surprisingly fun session as Drew was trying to desperately scramble and take care of things.
So what about you, Zach? You got one you like?
You know what? I'm actually a big fan of the modern organizations that I've created for your guys' campaign that you guys are in right now. I'd say right now, the Grove Tenders in particular, I really like how they turned out. And I also really, really like how the in particular the can't mention that. So I also really like how I pieced together. I didn't. I liked the Academy. That was a fun organization.
Academy was great. Yeah.
You know what? Ice Class and her motley fucking crew and like her color.
I also super loved them. Yeah.
That faction consisted of a whole bunch of people, but there was very little to no organization surrounding it. That's kind of what I loved about it. Is that it was the least organized religion of any religion.
That's Ace Class.
Yeah, that's pretty much that. That's kind of like where my favorite, like, the most interesting to play and run. I do like, again, I really do like the Grove Tenders, and I really like this how they're integrated with the story and how they relate to things you guys have already seen. I really like how they're impacted by it. I don't know how you guys feel about what you've learned of the Grove Tenders, or
I think they're.
I feel like I've learned very little, but I've liked what I've seen.
Okay.
It's not like we can talk to them a lot of the time.
Right. Well, we specifically can't.
Well, I mean, you guys have learned a significant amount.
That's something I'd like to point out is that I feel like a lot of times, Zach, you'd have like little mechanisms for your factions, but I felt like as a player, half the time I didn't even know which factions like existed, let alone how they are impacting the world around me. Not because you were like, it's not that you were being a bad GM, it's just that you had so much planned out already that it was like we just hadn't run into them yet, but they're still like
making impact,
having a huge impact that I just couldn't see. And I felt like at times it was like I'm gonna say daunting. Is just kind of like, oh, okay, or I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like if you're going to be running a game, like generally, I think having fewer factions is better because then you can keep everybody's motivations more succinct. I feel like it ends up more like if you have too many factions, it ends up like a Robert Jordan or a George R.R. Martin book with like a bunch of stuff to keep track of, which can be hard when it's. I'm using a bad analogy here, but being adapted to like TV. You get what I'm saying? Like
I do at the very least.
I get what you're talking
about. So that's something that I would say about factions. Then again, I will say that I don't have that much experience with making factions again.
Yeah. I mean, I think my favorite example of organizations in fiction, or one of my favorite examples at the very least, is Mistborn. I feel like those factions are very clearly defined and interact in very clear ways. And like,
but there's still like mystery, which is kind of cool.
There's still definitely a lot of mystery, but like you said, Drew, there's not too many factions, right? You got like the nobles, you got the king, you got the army, right? Like the inquisitors, the rebels. That's kind of, I guess, the the slaves in general. That's kind of it. The Terrymen, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like overall, that's probably my favorite set of, like, collection of organizations. I think that
I
was
also,
really,
I really want to do like a complete Blades campaign because like I feel like that could be a really fun like set of factions to have in a game, set of organizations.
a Blades campaign.
Yeah, a Blades campaign.
Yeah, well, we can. The reason the other one fell apart was responding to Discord, so I couldn't plan.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What wasn't on Discord?
Oh, just people weren't checking it.
Oh, I mean, well, I don't know.
Enough people weren't checking it that it frustrated me, and I don't want to run a campaign if I'm frustrated with the players.
Right. Sorry.
Like by session 1, you know what I mean? Like we had done one session plus the planning stuff, and I was already frustrated at half the players. It's not worth it. Better to just drop it and try again.
Yeah, that was kind of an annoying factor of that particular game.
It happens, you know. I generally don't have expectations for a campaign to go anymore until 3 sessions have been done. 3 sessions of play, not prep. Because otherwise, like, planning is such a pain. And, like, so many campaigns fail. So I've I guess tempered my expectations in that regard.
It's kind of interesting on my account. I guess just, I don't know what it is, but like I have like a 50% success rate with campaigns. Like
When you play online, mostly.
no, not even that. Like Drew, hey, remember the D&D campaign that I started with you? It's still going like 2 fucking years later. The one that you're in and we played it.
Oh.
The one with Hector. That one's still active. People still make sessions for that. I don't know what it is, but like I have a greater than 50% success rate with my campaigns.
Nice. I think my thing is I like to play with a lot of different people, and a lot of those are busy.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong.
Well, we
because
only meet
because I could have a really high success rate if I just tried to run campaigns with like Zach and Drew and Sam, right? Like you guys put a lot of time into this stuff. So Sam's not out of said time, but he would let me know beforehand. I would start a campaign with people saying I'm busy, but I think I can make it work, and then they can't.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Like I also I do have the benefit of like, well, yeah, with Drew's campaign it happens like once a month, which is kind of the plan. And there are some very organized and responsible people who are part of that campaign. So they make it their purpose. Like when you get Haley, Justin, and Laura all like together, they're all very like organized people who like to have planned out things. And so like when they're like, oh, we should do a D&D thing, they plan it out and we have it. We get it done. Like there's just a lot of like when you have players that are just naturally very organized and want to do something, then you know they're gonna go do it.
Yeah. Though if you have players that don't prioritize it, it's a fine time.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes a thing in that way. And the other thing is that a lot of the times with my online groups in particular, usually with the online group, they want to keep doing it, and we're all in the same chat group, so we're all constant communication with each other anyways. And the other thing about it is they usually, especially with the online groups, they tend to have more time on their hands, or at least they tend to be more upfront about like what their time commitments are. And so it becomes just hard to find the requisite number of players to start a campaign. So that's the big problem for me is getting the requisite numbers to start a campaign. But like once I have that group, they're usually pretty solid. I don't know. That's just been my experience. But
yeah, it hasn't been mine. But that's okay. I'd say at least 2/3 to 3/4. My campaigns don't float.
Would this be a good time to call it?
I think so.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
At least the recorded part of the conversation. I mean,
yes.
What were you gonna say, Basil?
Oh yeah, this was always going to be a short one just because
Yeah, this is naturally going to
organizations are
although we are
harder to talk about than like how to design a city.
Yeah. Anyways, that has been chatting about organization. We'll chat about other stuff, and I'm going to go take a fucking shower. So, later.
Bye,
Later.
friends.